You want to share the ASAP, you can get your stuff out the way.
Yep.
You'll be present once we start talking. All right, go ahead.
What?
Share the post before you
I'm
run
doing
out
it
of
now.
time.
I'm gonna talk on my laptop though.
She's good. It's just adjusting. Yeah. You have 8,000 windows open, bro.
I don't.
Yes, you do. Look,
Okay, what do you want to close?
whatever you're not using. But don't worry about that right now. You need to get your post ready so you're not trying to post in the middle of the broadcast.
We are the answer.
I'm going to turn the mic on now. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Rise up,
Peace,
family.
family.
Peace and power. Hope you're having a great evening. It's Monday. Of course, you know what Monday means. It's time for Soundbytes International Radio, y'all. African consciousness is the claim.
The world is the aim.
Absolutely. Bring the conversations pertinent to our diasporic landscape to you, and you all over the globe to ensure the fortification and healing of our family. So, you know how we do all day, every day with this. I'm Hasir Khan Nefera, of course, and this is
Nefera to my Auntie Ra.
Yes, indeed, family. So tune in, join the conversation, family. Tap in with us. You know, as always, this is a family coming to meeting session. So just make sure you connect with us. And let's get in tune, family. Right, join the conversation. Make sure you on all the platforms getting informed. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube right now. So please tune in. And again, share the broadcast with your family. Share the broadcast with your family. Share the broadcast with your family. Learn some tools from my good brother, Dr. Umar, over here.
Give thanks.
share the broadcast. Share the broadcast. Share the broadcast, family. So as you know, we're coming live again from Facebook and YouTube, and just to stay on point, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at Soundbytes International Radio. Make sure you subscribe, hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel at Soundbytes International Radio, y'all. Also, make sure, again, we're live on Facebook. So make sure you like and follow us on Facebook so you can stay in tune, stay connected to what we got going on at Soundbytes INTL Radio. Make sure you follow and like us on Facebook. Also on Instagram, we are at Soundbytes International Radio. So make sure you get in tune with us there as well. And of course, as always, we have our audio version of our broadcast, our past seasons, where you can take this on the go, get your listen to while you sleep, and get empowered while you sleep. You know, all that on your run, on your doing your laundry, whatever, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Make sure you follow us on Soundbytes International Radio, y'all. So, you know, if you find value in the broadcast, find value in the show, please make sure you hit them 5 stars and leave us a review. You know, all those things help within this matrix landscape, right? Because we are clear that we're working with what we have available to us within the matrix, right? But we're very clear we are in the matrix. We're very clear that this system is built in a certain way to stand against what we look for in our fortification, healing, and upliftment. So we're doing the work with what we can available to us until we don't need it, right? So that's just how that goes.
Doing it
family.
until we don't need to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to
I'm Malay says we're gonna do the work until we don't need the work.
Exactly. And then it's on to the next, or we just rest. Look out on a grateful world.
Okay.
So, but that's ideally the goal, of course. And of course, also just keep in mind if you do find value in the broadcast, we do accept any energy exchanges at our Cash App, $ Soundbytes Radio. So we do appreciate those who are donating in the past and those that are sharing the energy with us each week, and connect with us in a very special way. So we thank y'all, and we thank y'all that tend to join us every week and converse with us and chat with us. And let us know what's on your mind as well, right? When we get you with them topics. So we got, of course, it's sound bites. We get a mixture of topics, we get a mixture of conversations, we get it started, and then we just go from there. That's how we get into it, because
keep the bill going.
Yeah,
exactly. Keep the bill building.
Exactly.
Building.
It's a constant conversation, right? So we're here to do these to break it down in the best way possible, and really get into it and see in a way we haven't seen before. Right. So, and in that, we wanted to, today's episode, we wanted to really touch in, just connect with how we examine the landscape thus far of our existence, particularly if you want to measure time. Like we look at enslavement, U.S. chattel enslavement, ended about 7 years ago, almost 160 years ago, almost 160 years ago. Right. We've left U.S. American chattel slavery, that whole experience that stays with us, right? Because there is still epigenetic healing that needs to take place that is yet to do so, right? It's still epigenetic traumas that are still sit with us to this very day through our lineage, right? So we want to examine that, where we've gone thus far. Right, and it may not be like a detailed tidbit, but really look at the overall dive into the conversation and to really see where we're gonna go from there. Right, what do we see for ourselves, knowing what we know now, knowing all that we know of our history, and that there is more to know of our history, and where do we go from there? Right, where do we go from there? What's our next 160 years gonna look like? What's our next 200 years gonna look like? What's our next 2,000 years gonna look like? Right. They say climate change will happen. Who knows? We're gonna see what's gonna happen in 50 years, but we want to be hopeful. That there's gonna be something looming in a positive way for the future, that we can look forward to. Or are we looking at what's happening now and seeing the struggle and what needs to be fixed, what needs to be changed, and what needs to be uncovered and unsurfaced, or surfaced, to address it and get that healing going, right? And we're clear that there's a lot that needs to be done, right? But we want, we want to look towards what's possible in the knowing of everything we've gone through, everything we've dealt with, all the resilience conversation and things of that nature, and really looking at what we're looking at now. It's 2021. We're still dealing with the impacts of systemic institutionalized racism, white-centered consciousness, what many know is white supremacy, or whatever you want to call it. We want to call it white-centered consciousness. There's nothing supreme about what these folks have done to us over the course of history and colonialism and things of that nature. So we
don't market as supreme, heck no, because there's nothing happy about that or good.
Right, exactly. So we want to take a look at those things, right, that we're still dealing with in 2021. We just had just put up these statues in New York of John Lewis, George Floyd, and Breonna Taylor. We'll have our own conversations around statues. At the end of the day, we see the reality of it is that the George Floyd statue, out of the three, was vandalized. Not even barely. The week hasn't even started yet, and someone already vandalized. They actually got a video of the guy skating by. He was skating by and just threw paint on, probably from a cup or something, on the George Floyd statue, and just skated around and just kept it moving. Right. So what are you living with in your life where you have that much hate in your heart to do something like that? Right. To vandalize anything, whatever. But really like this. You know, in the end of the day, George Floyd was a murder victim. He's a victim of state violence, right? He was a victim of police brutality, right? Of this system that's
What's
just
going on?
right, exactly.
What's
Right.
going
So
on with you
how
that you can't
what
comprehend basic morality,
right.
consciousness, right and wrong? See,
What
some
is
things is right, some things is wrong. It's not a political statement. It's a
right,
human life, period. That's it. Police should not be hurting people.
right.
I don't care how you cut it. Oh, he should have been resisted arrest. He was in handcuffs. And if the baseline of your job and training doesn't allow you to subdue someone already subdued in handcuffs, then you're not fit for that job. You're not fit for that job.
Right.
I'm just saying.
And again, like, well, so looking at that, how he succumbed to this, what is it in your heart that has you vandalize the memory or want to attack the memory or to plan to do something like that, right? It's like, you know, no one's just riding around with a cup of paint.
The symbolism. They
like,
pissed on the symbolism.
No one runs around with a cup of paint just like willy-nilly, right? That was clearly a premeditated thing. I want to vandalize this statue. I want to same thing with Breonna Taylor statue. Forgot which state it was. I don't know if it was Philly or something like that, where they broke it apart. They vandalized, like they beat, like I think they shot it. They shot her statue.
Well, they're still shooting at the gravesite of Emmett Till.
Right. No, that's what it was.
They're still shooting at the gravesite and at the marker of where he was discovered in the ocean. They're still shooting at this. Like, so it's not really hatred. It's because I mean, you got to really look at the psychosis of hatred, right? Is it hatred or is it ignorance? Right? Hatred or is it ignorance? It's foolishness, and it's people who have the power to be able to impact other people's lives with their foolishness, right? Because the reality of it is, it's been debunked, right? So how are you going to dislike African people? What is on the list of things? What could possibly be up there? Oh, we don't like African people, or we don't like black people because they're monkeys. Okay, so that's been debunked, right? A black person is probably your child's teacher. It's probably your doctor. It's probably on the bench at the courthouse.
Right.
So, not those kinds of black people. Not Oprah Winfrey. Not Will Smith kind of black people. Those are different kind of black people. We talking about them yard monkeys out there that's carrying on, that they show you on TV, that do crazy things and look a hot mess, look like they escaped from the insane asylum, because they keep those people around to mark those particular psychoses in certain people's minds. That's a mental play, right? To present these people carrying on like they're savage, a certain segment, so you could, set aside those other kinds of black people. And then you got, what else is in there? Oh, they're not animals. Okay, so black people are taking all the jobs. Clearly, the black people are not taking all the jobs, right? That's not really happening, because the higher you go, the whiter you get. It's still just as white as it's always been at the top, all over the place. That has not changed, because you're looking at the percentages of all of these major corporations. As much as they talk about their diversity efforts, it's all performative foolishness, right? Because even when you become the president of supposedly the most progressive country, which I scoff at that, I just puke at that. It's just nauseating that everyone rhetorics this foolishness, because America, its ability to set itself aside and apart in terms of what's good, it's like out of 100, it's like 92, right? It's only a few places worse than America in terms of what matters, right? Humanity matters, right? Distribution of resources matters, how well you treat your elderly matters, how well you treat the children of a community, that matters. How much discord you have among your society. You're supposed to have progressive society. People should be able to honor the memory of a person who was killed unjustly in their home, just being home. If you can't just be home and be being in America, America cannot say that it is any moral status anywhere in the world, that it is anywhere progressive. That's savagery, right? That is beyond comprehension for a place that calls itself progressive. And that's not anti-patriotic. It's anti-crimes against humanity, right? And if you can't make that distinction, I can't have conversations with people who can't make that distinction. It's like this allegiance bias that people have, that it just breaks their ability to comprehend consciousness of basic right and wrong. It's not okay for police who are trained to know better to be able to defuse a situation without violence, right? Police officers should not be taking their egos to work with them. That's something that should be like a hat that you take off and you leave at home with you. And the only thing you bring to work is your training. And if your training is still producing this outcome, then there's something wrong with the training. I wasn't at the GIPSTIC, Georgia Department of Public Safety, when I became a correctional officer. But if I was in the front of the room giving trainings, you will not have officers in the street killing Black people who are in cuffs or who don't have weapons or who have there would be a different conversation with an individual that leaves my classroom who goes out to be a public servant. It wouldn't happen. So something is defunct about the textbook, the teaching, and there's something defunct about the instructor. So America cannot say that it's on the top rung of progressive thinking and it's spearheading this and it's progressive. It can't tout any of those things. It's all rhetoric. And it's press and play because you hear, and it's mostly white people. And it's people who are brown with white-centered consciousness, with white brain, who are brown on the outside and white on the inside, who tout that foolishness about America. No, you can't say, oh, here go Harris comes in. America's not a racist country. America does racist things. As stupid as stupid does. So if America does racist things, what does that make America? I'm just saying.
Right.
Is it a red dress or is it not a red dress? Look again. It's a racist. I'm just saying.
It's a racist.
But, it is a conversation to be having. The system wants to, demonize all conversations that are critical. I'm not here for, what do you call this? Allegiance bias with the inability to process common sense. That's not okay with me. And this is why I've been calling out for the past 3-4 years, like, where the white people at? Why are white people not pouring into the streets, losing their minds, going entirely apeshit about the madness that's happening? Because I would think that some of this behavior would be a total bomb on what we're creating or what we claim to create. There is a staunch contradiction in what the rhetoric is as opposed to what actually happens on the ground. And for some people finding that out for the first time, I would think they would be extremely alarmed by some of these things that are happening on the ground. Peace and blessings, our sister Carol. Thank you so much for coming in. It's a flipping red dress. Yes, I think it's a red dress. And it's something to be said about, our ability to confront our situation without succumbing to the triggers that cause African people to have ambivalence about your position because of the way the narrative has been gone. I would think that, we're looking at, pose the question as to where is African community going in the next 50, 75, 100, 200 years? Because so many of us, we are so excited and applauded by just doing basic things, and we just get so excited about being able to buy a car or, buy a house or like things that we've given so much meaning to certain things that we've missed the mark entirely. That like our focus is entirely off from what's important and what matters.
Yeah, and then we build this investment in those things to the point where we feel like we can't pull ourselves out of it now. So now those things become an extension of who we believe to. Yeah, exactly. Who we believe we become to be, and we can't pull ourselves out of that space, and it becomes harder and harder to let go of the trinkets of the matrix. And now you're beholden to the matrix and everything it offers, right? Versus looking at it as for what it is that these structures that are here, right? And a lot of it to the making of the detriment of the African, in a sense, and anybody that opposes the power of the matrix. So we want to really, again, like we're saying, we have to examine where we are in this current landscape with everything that's taking place, right? With all of the state sanctioned violence against people, against groups and sects of people of in different cultures, different communities, and different backgrounds, different pockets and regions of the country and of the globe. Like how are these people being treated and segmented in the overall order of things, right? Or the order as it's been set, right, versus natural order, right, versus what's actually
right.
The way that the processes of the earth should be flowing, right? We're not in tune with that. We're straying away from what that is. And a lot of really what it is because that's what we've been born into. We talk about these newer generations of ourselves, even from boomers, what have you. But like really, we've strayed away from what that natural order is, and now all we've grown to know is this order that's been set in place by this matrix, by this system, by quote unquote powers that be, and they shape you into being like you're better than them if you go with us, but you can never go against us because the moment you do that, you losing every bit of everything, right? We're going to turn your people against you. We're going to turn your family against you. We're going to turn your village against you. We're going to turn your kids against you. We're going to do everything we can through these propaganda machines, media, through work and living wages and housing wages and all these pieces that have been solidified as value structures, right? These things, these inanimate objects, these thoughts that can constantly change, but are set in place as this is the position you need to adhere to, right? And nothing else. Because the moment you do something else, then you're a problem, right? Not realizing that something else is everything you need to be. Adapting to yourself as African, understand what that identity is, and taking that walk to understand who you really are, who you get to be, standing as an African in these spaces, standing 100% yourself in these spaces, standing 100% understanding how you get to support your family, your community, your village in these spaces, right? And let go of those things. Like I don't really need these things, right? I don't need these cars. I don't need these groceries and things like that. Like I'm going to commit to growing food. I'm going to commit to learning this trade. I'm going to commit to learning this combat style, this protective style, this way, learning these survival skills or whatever the case may be, and putting that on the board of the game versus, well, let me get this good job, right? Let me get this degree, so my intelligence is defined by somebody else who's probably dumb as shit compared to I am. How do we let this happen? How do we continue to let it happen? And how do we continue to let it happen knowing there's information out there that proves all these things? That we do stand in a certain place in reflection of these folks, right? Of these powers that be, or these people that are helping to shape the structure of pandemonium and chaos and perversion and division amongst people just to keep their space. Why? Because then now you're fighting against each other. You're going against each other, whether it's just black on black or other cultures and on Indian or on Spanish, on Asian, or whatever the case may be. As long as y'all ain't talking to us, as long as y'all ain't fighting with us, we're good. We're gonna keep that chaos going while we maintain the power. That's what we're dealing with. So we need to be clear on that. That we understand what that is, and that we do our due diligence to connect with our source to bring it back, Sankofa, and break it down and deconstruct it in the way that it needs to be. And that can be a 50-year walk. That could be a 200-year walk. Because we have our elders and ancestors that have been doing that walk for the longest time, right? Even from Jump Street of enslavement, there was a fight. They were fighting back. There was no pacifism in just accepting this human order, because we know that there's something of greater value and of greater power than that. There's subservience to someone who doesn't want to do work. Someone else, period.
We got to catalog our processes. We got to look at, they got certain entities out here in the space, NAACP, you got the Urban League, does a State of Black America. And, the greatest issue that I find in terms of African people is that we have, we've succumbed to the system as it is. And I know, we go with our academics, and I try to impress upon our African people that, we look at our timeline of development. Are we looking at our timeline? If you find this framework of reference, this is a framework of reference, right? African people here in America, the bottom line, if you go back far enough, you'll find African people here in America. Okay, right. So the majority of what we talk about what has occurred over the past 500 years here in this American landscape. And we don't interact with our land. We don't interact with our space as a global people. We don't interact with our space like we can go back 50,000 years. We as human beings on a daily basis do not interact with our living experience like we have DNA coding that was even before Kemet, right? And even before that timeline. But what our references, people often talk about, Kemet is a powerful piece of work, but it's been highlighted the way that it has in European consciousness because European people went to Egypt to be educated.
Right.
Kemet. They went to Kemet to be educated in the high sciences, but they were in Kemet being educated with the high sciences. How long do you believe it took to accumulate that body of work, that body of ability, technology? They built pyramids. They built tunneling systems. They built irrigation systems. There were government. There were military force. There was organization. All of the social landscape that we see today that we succumb to as our box framework. I'm concerned about us as a community of people that we haven't engaged in our possibilities for 50, 75, 100 years, which is why for the past 156 years, they've literally been dialing us back the same way while we quote unquote have freedom, while we quote unquote have our ability to do things, right? Which I think we are continuing to use that as a measurement, while individuals who are committed to the system, you'll rarely hear them have an authentic conversation about African liberation. Mm-hmm. You'll rarely ever hear them having a conversation about outside of this box, African people did their own thing. Outside of this box, African people had fully functional, and they had fully functional societies that were even better than this one. This society has yet to come. It can't even get in the same room with what African was creating long before these individuals. And they want people, and they silence others. See, that's the part that gets to see. If your situation is so good and it's so clear, you should be able to stand some scrutiny. You shouldn't be out here tricking people, cutting people down who have an opposing view, because that's dictatorship. That's authoritarian. That is with an arm of force. So you obviously can't stand in your position. You obviously cannot hold it.
Right.
You obviously cannot sustain it. In other countries, there are similar things that are happening. They were literally killing folks in China when they were changing the regime because they were trying to get rid of some old junk to bring in something new that they felt was better. They did it. We're in a space in this very moment. Facebook was down all day today. So y'all don't know what they were doing in the background. You all don't know how that system, how their processor combed through all of these Facebook accounts and what information was being extracted, what was being done. Nobody knows.
Right.
Nobody knows. And every day, John and Jane Q public people with lazy brain who are been acculturated into receiving a pill for everything. Here's a pill, take it, it's going to make you feel better. Nobody wants to do any work. Everybody goes from 0 to Z, A to Z, jump all the dots in between, no work in between, from A to Z, immediately produce. That's what everybody wants. This is why people deceive, maliciously parasite, vampire. These are the things that we do in our society because we want to go from A to Z. We don't want to put in any work. Our society has trained us to be this is our daily way of being. Our everyday ways of being, we're not looking at the bigger picture. So if we don't know that we're currently living in a society that is very much on the cusp of a similar consciousness that happened in this society here, where everybody contributed to and turned a blind eye while 6 million human beings were put into ovens. This happened the same way. What's happening now, the propaganda that's in our space right now, this is exactly what happened to African people, and they were pulled from over there and brought here, stamped inhumane. They were stamped non-human, animal, beast. This is exactly what happened. They had a botanist come out, a horticulturalist come out and say these brains, this is not even your area of expertise. But you guys, because white center conscious is good for doing that. Let's just stamp it, push it on through. Let's just keep it going. Because we got this thing, we can run this thing through. Just tape it together and let's make it work. Right? And you African not going to sit there and look back at this thing and say, you know what, this really doesn't work. So African people need different things. And you're not going to find the messaging. So you always have to chew up the fat and spit out the bone. So you have the state of Black America. And everything about the state of Black America is always about we need jobs, we need to stop racism, we need to stop, we need to evenly distribute resources here in America. Listen, these folks don't have no reason to give you nothing. It's their house. They took it. They decided it was theirs. And they have invested all of regular, everyday John and Jane Q public. So they mechanized whiteness, weaponized white culture against everybody else to the point where you can't even speak about your own human right to self-efficacy. No one can take that from you. That white center conscious cannot give you self-efficacy. They cannot give you humanity. They cannot give you life.
No one can give you humanity.
They can't give you any of those things yet. Through intimidation, they suppress, oppress, and make you repress yourself to subordinate to this madness. And you have people, and then they tug at your sensitivities by putting people in your face to carry these things because now they are emotionally attached to these outcomes. I have conversations with people all the time, and I swear it's like the Twilight Zone. Who are you? Do you not speak English? Am I not an articulate, clear speaking, conscious person? Do you not understand what I'm saying? Some of these ideas are just basically completely beyond the comprehension. African, you guys 50, 60, 70, 100 years, 200 years into the future. You're looking at technology. You're looking at health and wellness. Because right now, you're putting something into your body and you have no idea what's going to happen in 3 generations because of it. And none of these people are scientists, and none of them are thinking about what's going to happen with what the residues that they're leaving in their system in 30 years. Nobody's thinking about that. An experimental drug just popped up out of left field, and I'm supposed to trust people. I'm thinking about the MSWs. I'm thinking about the LMSWs out here, the PhDs in psych and psychology, who have to stand here and say, what is it for a people to trust somebody who historically has harmed them consistently? Where the Africans at that's saying this? Why should they believe anything you say? Why do you suddenly care? You were able to print money. You were able to just print money. You was enter. You get a car. You've been able to print money, but you will not stand up there and take responsibility for your racket of dragging African people, scientists tearing up families, killing people, taking their lives, because a whole bunch of Africans just jumped off the boat. They just killed themselves because they didn't want to succumb to this madness. People who are having a white cultural consciousness, white people, Europeans, did that. That was entirely their doing. Portugal, Britain, Spain, right? Belgium, that's what they did. That's what they were doing to fill their coffers because stuff was important to them. Things. They didn't have enough. They couldn't fix the system that they had where they were. So this is what their go-to was, their business plan, and their 100, 200-year perspectives. They came out all right. Think about it. They came out all right. And y'all are sitting there while all this madness occurred around you and you pretending that every day like it's all normal because you got a corner desk job, $250,000 house, and you feeling froggy. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, this is how you're feeling. And you're going to sell this at the college, at the job, to your children, at the church, at your organization. You're going to keep selling and toting this foolishness. This is what you're going to do. So I have to consider, we looked at a cucumber recently. And when I was a little girl, I looked at a cucumber and I saw those little teeny weeny seeds in there that looked like the tip of pencil heads. You know how tiny a pencil head is? That's what the seeds in a cucumber looked like when I was a little girl. Mm-hmm. Now they're pretty much gone. Most of them don't even have it. It's just a little hollowing where the seed was. So you think your womb is there? It's producing eggs right now? In 30 years, when I was a little girl, 30 years later, now your womb is still there. The eggs are still there, but there's nothing in it. There's no systems of light inside your eggs. Can this happen? You still have a testicle. You're still producing semen. What's in the semen? No life-giving forces in the semen. Are you trying to tell me you not being a scientist? I'm not a scientist. I'm not a biochemist. I'm not a geneticist. That's not my area. I am able to read and comprehend information. Valid, yeah. I've read certain articles and certain research papers and different, I follow certain areas of this information. I'm able to contemplate and perceive and comprehend information, reasonable information when I read it. And I still can process that information because sometimes you're reading things and it's coming from a white-centered consciousness. So you still got to filter through it even then. Like I said, it's white-centered consciousness that focuses everybody's fascination on Kemet. But Kemet was not the only advanced civilization. Right. It's not the oldest civilization for African people. Africa has 54 countries right now after the Berlin Conference, and they carved up Africa and they created these borderlines so everybody can get their set so they can run their game and get their coins and puff their countries up at the expense of other people. See, there is a psychosis and an analysis that goes along with that theory of looking at people as cattle. See, there's something that has to happen with people who are having a white culture consciousness to functionally deal with those realities for themselves. That's their business. They get to deal with it. They have the resources to do so. You, African, need to understand that you need to stop looking to people with a white culture consciousness because whiteness is mechanized against everybody else. Because if you can't stand up and create your own reality and someone is encroaching on your ability to do that, that's a problem. You should stop that. You should stop. This is why Malcolm X said by any means necessary. Everybody says that they don't understand what the hell he means. No one has a right to give you humanity. And no one has a right to encroach upon your humanity either. But white-centered consciousness said they can't have two governments on this American soil because it's our set. And if you got two governments on this American soil, somebody going to have to fight because this is white-centered consciousness. So if everybody going to fight, somebody going to win, somebody going to lose. Right. White-centered consciousness said we're going to create harmony because we have to create an undercast so that these folks up here, we can keep this line of division among them, give white people who are not a part of the round table, just give them because they're maintaining the set. They're keeping up appearances. Because that's what everyday John and JQ public white people are. They don't contribute to nothing. They don't do nothing. They're just there. And their basic habits, life habits, maintain the system. And that's what their function is. Right. They are just frontline individuals that are there to maintain, do their habitual living experiences to maintain this whole concept of white superiority. Right. And because they are personally invested and they get trinkets and kickbacks and they're incentivized and they're emotionally attached to their identity, they're going to continue to maintain this. Yeah. And they're going to make sure that they push out whatever you're saying, whatever your position is, whatever bad thing, police over here killing black people. Well, black people shouldn't be doing this is what they say. Well, what did he do? What did he do? Because white people understand themselves as being mathematical. Right, wrong. No. You can't. Clinical. You can't, and clinical. You cannot calculate deciding that it's okay to take people from here, steal them and all the other things and bells and whistles and horrific experiences that go along with that and bring them to another country. There is no cause for it. Right. White-centered consciousness has stamped out industries so that they can create industries for themselves that are detrimental to everybody else, but they're going to feed you garbage. Listening to one, matter of fact, I happen to be listening to it right now, but I already knew about this. Rockefeller did research. Rockefeller Institute did research, a university, whatever, research center, did research and just giving these black folks, burgers. And we actually saw that. They actually did a documentary on that some time ago. Just some guy decided he was going to eat McDonald's burgers for 30 days.
Super Size Me, I think it was.
And that was, but that research was run by the Rockefeller Center. It was funding it to find out what's your biometrics after you eat this garbage for 30 straight days. But you know what? Dividends are paid on McDonald's because McDonald's is a federally traded company. And so are so many of these other multinational, global, conglomerate, these huge Fortune 500 companies. They're all, it doesn't matter what they're toting the world. It doesn't matter what they're giving the world. You know, they create a problem, and then in 50 years, a big problem. So we're not going to tell you what the problem was. We're just going to make you think it's a great idea. We even talk about this all the time. There were doctors who used to endorse smoking.
Yeah.
There were doctors. So how can you believe these folks? And I'm not saying, oh, it's a white thing, it's a black thing. I'm telling you that African, you need to scrutinize the information that's being given to you. You cannot just take it for yourself as factual and right for an African, because it's likely not for you.
Right.
It's not for you because these folks don't have two narratives. So they've made everybody collapse into their narrative.
Right.
Everybody is forced to collapse.
Come into that.
Into their narrative, enculturated, indoctrinated into their narrative. One type of health, one type of diet, one type of lifestyle, one type of career path. You work hard, you're gonna get it. Now, my grandfather came here to America in the 20s with $60 in his pocket. That does not work for everybody. It works for everybody but the Africans that were here, that were the descendants. Because I've had continental Africans tell me that they ain't here for no black talk. They ain't here for no racist talk. Just get your money. I've had black people look me in my face and tell me, listen, just tell them people what they want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm in the interview, like I'm talking at the board table, and I'm all Malcolm X at the board table. You know I'm not doing that. But see, an African, you can't look at me as an African and say, because you're not a fully functional animated African. So you actually don't fully understand what I'm saying to you about the experiences that I'm having.
Which you run into a lot.
Because you're not a fully functional animated African. There's still a consciousness, a blind spot for you trying to process what I'm saying to you, which is a call out for you. You got to look at yourself not being a fully functional animated African. And it's not about fear of being punished by the system. As long as we don't have critical mass of African people being fully functional animated Africans, these folks will continue to hurt and harm African people. So stop the shuffling papers and stop the noise. I'm tired of hearing it. I want to hear the complaints. I want to hear the foolishness. I'm only dealing with people who are fully functional animated Africans. And if I don't biz with you, you know about that.
Right.
It is what it is. Because there comes a time when you got to draw the line in the sand. And I'm so annoyed with with looking at other Africans who are in betrayal. It's a betrayal. It's a betrayal to yourself, soul, your ancestors, your children's birthright, and your fellow Africans.
Because what happens when you grow up hollow. A lot of us grow up hollow because we've let our circumstances dictate how we react to the rest of our human experience. Right? When you think about, like, I'm growing up, like I'm a black kid growing up in the hood and growing up poor. I know how it felt to not have these things and how it made my body feel, how it made my consciousness feel. I didn't like that feeling of what not having things made me feel. So I'm gonna grow up and make sure that never happens to me. And that's my by any means. My by any means ain't about
I'm gonna get what I can get it how you live.
I'm gonna get what I can get, so I don't have to feel the way I felt when I was a kid or whatever. I'm not gonna let my kids deal with that. And as long as I'm working and getting money and getting the things that make me feel good in this temporary style, then I'm good. I don't need to do anything else because all the other shit is hard. All the black shit is hard. I don't want to talk that stuff because it's just going to challenge everything that's taking place right now, and it's going to create more problems. Ain't no riches in activism. Ain't no riches in fighting for black liberation. This is my liberation right here. My financial Juneteenth. My this, my that. Like we succumb to these hollow top surface narratives and subscribe to what's been given to us as this is what's right because and it is what it is. Let me just move forward. Right? I'm black.
But
people see I'm black. It's good enough.
It's a lack of self-efficacy.
Yeah.
We talked about this last week. If you don't believe, first of all, you are interacting with your reality from a distortion because you're inside this box, right? The reality of it is no one can give you humanity.
Right.
No one. See, we got to pay the bills. We got to pay the light bill. See, all of these, we can still be doing all of these things. There just does not need to be the restraint on people's humanity, right? There are people who claim that, I ain't never been oppressed. Lil Wayne said that foolishness. But then there are people who are CEOs of organizations who make a nice grip on their salaries, who are socially connected in places and spaces, and they say they've never experienced racism. What they say? Because they have a whole lot of people having a white cultural experience around them that pander to them and brush them like a freaking lapdog. And they respect me. No black man has any rights that a white man is bound to respect. You're useful until you're not. Remember, people who are having a white cultural experience are not at the round table. So they don't directly legislate anything, but they participate in their daily habitual living experiences in the oppression of other people by maintaining the system as it is. Which is why I say, why aren't there white people in the streets losing their minds after what happened to George Floyd? I don't care what he did. He was in handcuffs. It's no way he should have been killed in handcuffs because he was already subdued. They could have let him, whatever he was going to scream it out, holler it out, even if he was going to run. How far was he going to get with his hands in cuffs behind him? How fast could he run? It's not a normal occurrence for someone to be practicing running with their hands behind them in handcuffs. He couldn't get but so far. I've looked on videos and I've seen in Japan, police don't even use guns. They got something called a burrito, but they literally wrap people up to take them into custody. They wrap them up and they carry them. There's handles on these wraps. They can carry someone laying down across and put them into a cell. There's no need for this behavior and malice and handling of African people. And I don't care, white, black, whoever you are. If you don't have a problem with that, I got a problem with you. Period. I'm looking at your humanity like, what kind of person are you? But I bet you want some humanity. I bet you want somebody to give you some feels. I'm not concerned. Not mildly. Because I'll give my sensitivities to those who have need of them. And African people are unjustly without my compassion. So I will save it for them because they need it.
Right.
Right? If you haven't, whatever your outcomes are in the system that you created or the people like you created, or that you stand by willy-nilly and watch be created and mechanized against other people and you do nothing about it, that's your business. Work it out. African, don't spend your resources nowhere else but building African-centered consciousness for yourself, healing for yourself, and sovereignty for African people. Period. That means stop spending your money with these folks. Stop spending a coin. Only spend what is absolutely necessary. Work through whatever your mental breaks are, that forces you to feel some kind of way if you don't have things. You better deal with that. Because these are vulnerable spots. If you don't have things, there's no reason. Oh, you can do this, you can do that. Listen, there are people who play by the system to the letter, and they still spit in their face. They still took all their wealth. They didn't leave with nothing. They didn't leave their children nothing. There's people who play by the system to the letter. And you know when they're going to remember you? My birthday was just passed yesterday. They'll remember you on your birthday once a year, and they might remember on the day you died. Eventually, there will be nobody around to remember you because all of those people will be dead.
Right.
I don't know my grandmother's grandmother. Nobody in my family knows my grandmother's grandmother. So her memories are gone.
Yeah.
Whoever she was on this planet, it's a wrap. It's gone. It's done. And that's a part of the metrics that people who are having a white cultural consciousness, those factors are a part of the metrics that they work with. When they do the sciences and they do the calculations, my grandmother had a grandmother. Nobody in this family that is living now remembers her or talks about her. I don't even know if any of my grandmother has two of her siblings are still living. Her youngest sister and her middle sister are still living. There was 6 or 7 of them. So who remembers grandma's grandma?
Right.
What was grandma's name?
Right.
Some people are lucky enough to know their generation. Some people got that Bible in their family. What black folks did from slavery days. And they kept a log of the family members. And they have a family tree. Some people have a benefit of that. I don't personally have a benefit of that. And I know a lot of Africans that don't have a benefit of that.
Right.
So once you come in here and you leave within a generation or two, my grandmother's grandmother was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 generations ago. My grandmother's grandmother was 6 generations ago. And nobody remembers her. That's it. Done. So it's a betrayal when I get to talk to African people. So anybody in my space, anybody who's ever been touched by me, white or black, you got to show up. Because my life depends on it. There are other Africans in this world whose lives depend on it. And nobody has the right to encroach on African people's lives. Anyone who came to this country by choice, or they were allegedly fleeing violence in their own country because America's foolishness, manipulation, and behind the scenes. Because you think they're bad on American soil? Listen, they're not tearing up American soil. You need to see some of these other countries where there's sand, there's clearing, there's desert land, there's large clearing, there's not a lot of infrastructure. You need to see the kind of madness that they create in these other people's countries. See, this stuff is not in your backyard. So you don't see the havoc that they create around the planet. Someone needs to start to begin to think about another government or another sovereignty for African people where African people self-govern. Because African people, if you're not going back far enough, you're not going back far enough in your recall. You can't stop at Kemet. You got to go back even farther than Kemet. What came first, the chicken or the egg, African? People who are having a white cultural experience, unfortunately, are the chicken.
Right.
So what came first, the chicken or the egg? I'm just saying, it's not a diss. Oh, you're talking crazy to this and they says racist stuff. Listen, I'm not here for reactionary foolishness. I'm here for an analysis. If you can have one, have one. If you cannot have one, you need more information in your knowledge bank.
Right.
Because I'm not telling you nothing that I didn't research and apply and synthesize. I'm not a regurgitator. So you're not going to hear me calling 50,000 people's names because you got to chew up the fat and spit out the bone because some of it is good and some of it is not.
Right.
So you still got to filter through some of this stuff because you're still filtering through someone's perspective and their own personal biases.
Right.
So no matter who's writing it, you still got to filter through some of that stuff.
Right.
And in my opinion, some of our writings doesn't get big enough because I'm talking about bigger than this framework of ask for jobs and equity. You still function within a mechanism that you're not at the driving seat. You're not at the table making any decisions. That means they can pull the carpet whenever they feel like it. That means even if they gave you jobs or created equity and let black people get houses and property, you still got to come to the gate and get a stamp from the goat across the bridge. You can't cross the bridge unless you get a stamp. How you get there? You still got to come to the architect and get your clearance. That's not okay. That's not all right. Because I need to be coming to get clearance from African people that I know care about my well-being.
Right.
I need to know that African people who, no matter what, come hell or high water, standing for what's right, regardless to what.
Because why you need to get clearance to go to another space where you're not going to be valued?
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane to me. And I don't understand why we as African people never think about this. We're so happy. And this is when they say African people are childlike.
We don't.
This is why we say, they say people are having a white cultural experience to this day. I don't care where they are. They're not even at the round table. They have a sense of white arrogance where they get to diminish your intelligence on a regular basis. Because clearly African people, they're childlike. They're emotionally driven. They have impulse control issues. You know, just give them a little, just compliment them. Give them a little pat on the back and they'll be okay. Like you give them a cookie. And that's what they do to us. I don't care what kind of doctorate degree they have. Give them a little cookie and here go somewhere and sit down and be quiet.
Right.
Because that's what happens.
Yeah, none of that stuff is seen.
None of that stuff matters. They just, good job, and pat you on the back.
It's like working in sometimes you gotta pull pop culture references, but looking at like with the MCU and like how you have these Infinity Stones and like these are these most powerful things within this universe, and then you go to something like the Loki show where like you're outside of time and space, and those Infinity Stones are just paperweights. They don't even mean anything in that particular space. So as long as they hold power within this particular space, everything you think is this grandiose thing, these trinkets you receive, these make you all powerful, means nothing. Like never say, they pull the rug right from under you, and you wouldn't even know it. And you start from scratch. If that,
and they do it every time.
Scratch. All the time. Who moved my cheese? They do it every time. They find any way to keep moving you around
every 30 years, every 20 years. They keep this madness going on. But right now,
they call it something different. They label it something different.
It's the same systems, different players. Same system.
Mm-hmm.
I did it with a rat. I did a rat.
When
I did the sheet, a rat, an elephant, a rat, elephant. I forgot what it was, but it was like. No, a rat, a rabbit. It was a rat, a rabbit, a rat, a rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the political line, as long as I've been alive, and I've been watching politics, which was since I think Reagan was in office.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was in junior high school watching Reagan doing current events. You got to go to the newspaper, pull out. And so these are the things that our young people don't do today. This is part of the reason why our young people are not politically intelligent. Because they changed the educational system. So they have all of these systems that, Neely Fuller or United Compensatory Code system, all of these different facets where they're piddling around. So they got folks out here getting PhDs when they change and shift up the curriculum because African people are not writing curriculum that highlights African children's natural genius, right? So they got now African children because the Matrix decided that we're going to have children who can't really focus as a result of these shots they've been getting. They have ADD. All of them can't focus. We're giving them too much sugar. All of this Food and Drug Administration food stuff that we've been pushing these kids for the past 25 years, their systems are compromised, so they can't really focus. So we got to do something. We got to make kids who are robots. We got to keep the task small. We got to give them instruction, and we got to start grinding them since young kids, since 6 years old. We got to start grinding them so that they put the small peg into the round hole, square peg, square hole. Oval peg, oval hole. So this is what they've done with our children. This is why they created testers. They were firing teachers if you're not training and grinding your youth on how to put a round peg into a round hole. That's the point. Because in the 80s, they decided to grind these kids. They took phonics out of school. Our children don't speak well. We always know when they did the metrics and they said criminality is always a foundation somewhere, a mental health issue, and literacy is always a problem because people who cannot find the words to describe their feelings are going to act out.
And also creative outlets too. You think about arts. They took arts
no
out
arts,
of school.
No arts in the school.
Music.
No music in the school. Sports in very few schools. You got to be in certain elite schools or certain, community schools had certain budgets. If they were high on the chain, they was golfing with, the superintendents and things like that. Their schools were able to get some coin.
Mm-hmm.
Then they scrambled that mess up by creating charter schools. So now they're creating classism within a subclass of a subclass. Because now you're going to have some kids that are going to get some elite experiences because those are the kids who are going to have music, who are going to have violin, who are going to have a foreign language at
controlled
school.
Environment.
And those are the ones who are going to now control the other ones. And we're going to teach them that these are the bad kids, the round peg, round hole kids. Because we're grinding these youth up. But this madness is happening. We're watching it right here. And you know what? You know what parent is? Stella's with her groove because the men are all in prison. So now Stella's getting her groove back. And she had the job. And everybody, black women is getting their come up. So all of these things are simultaneously happening. And people who are making the decisions, the higher you get, the wider you get. So the people who are making decisions about curriculum and what's effective for children. Because once you come in here talking that other stuff, some of our teachers that I have who were actually instrumental in my personal development, they always got shit at the job. Mm-hmm. I could tell as a young child, 9, 10 years old, 11 years old, I could see the energy that my professor, my teacher was getting.
Same here, yeah.
I could see the teachers that was actually standing for the youth. Mr. Walker, they used to give him shit. They gave that man so much crap. The Board of Education wasn't paying teachers worth a damn back in the 90s. Now teachers got this big salary bump, and they're not infusing their children. Yeah. And teachers want to say, don't come for us, don't come for us. No, I'm coming for you because you are underdeveloped. Yeah, you are in front of the classroom, and it's your responsibility to be the best asset to your youth.
Right.
But you know what? You took that job. They're going to give you a free master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the individuals who come into the system, they believe the system still works. They're not really clear that the system is mechanized and weaponized against African people. And it's definitely mechanized and weaponized to catch our young people young.
I remember there was a video where it was like these kind of candid interviews or what have you, like with these white teachers that were teaching in like black schools or schools with kids of color, what have you, young teachers, young millennials, but they let them put these random masks on their head so they can freely vent about what they're experiencing as teachers and what they're doing. And yeah, granted, it's hard. It's a hard job. It's a hard job to impart knowledge and create this space daily for these youth to grow and flourish and connect with you. Right. It doesn't have to be right, but if you're not connected,
it isn't, and it doesn't have to be. It's not. When you're an African, right, it's not difficult.
Right.
I have no problem being in a room with youth. What they put them, they call them the juvenile delinquents.
Yeah.
I've been in a room with the juvenile delinquents. I've been in a room with the children who are the babies of crack parents. I've been in a room with foster youth. Nobody care about them. They just foster kids because who the hell cares? They're all mostly disturbed. Right. They all on dope and drugs. They ain't gonna be shit nowhere anyway. They're gonna be in the system in some other capacity. Right. So I've been in a room with all these different types of difficult demographic youth. And I've also been in a room with the very enlightened and very intelligent. We've been in the room with, baby geniuses. Right.
Yeah.
And children are all the same.
Yeah.
They're all the same. But that thing that when they say, whatever you tell those kids, Dr. Joyce said that you keep telling these kids that this or that, this or that, they will become this or that, and then they test everybody they meet because they've been betrayed by everybody they know. And you know who betrays us most? We do. Other brown people betray each other the most. I look back just the other day and was talking to you the other day about, I can look back on so many experiences when I got bad advice about a decision that I needed to make in my life. And I look back and I realized that was a bad decision to make. And somebody in authority, black person, told me to do it. Might have been a friend, might have been a family member, might have been a teacher, might have been a counselor, might have been someone that, in various facets, professional mentorship. All of these different people, they're not giving advice that's good and fitting for Africans. They're giving you information so that you become submissive to the system, so that you oppress and contortion yourself and put yourself into a box. So if you as an academic are telling our youth and our students, wherever they happen to be, if you're telling them that, then you are a part of the problem. That's it. The mechanisms are not out there. You are a part of the problem. There is a maintenance conversation, and I'm telling you there's a maintenance conversation because I'm not feeding you, right? I'm not feeding you. We're giving you this information. It's feeding your soul. It's feeding your consciousness. We're sharing this information with you, and we're having this discussion to build our consciousness and also to build up our confidence and also have us check in with our intrinsic nobility and our spiritual frequency that is old as time. That's what we're having this experience for. But I also am not feeding you. So there is a maintenance conversation because enough of us, that critical mass is not kicking in for us to not have to pay to live, right? So we can try to give tools and hopefully your behavior will change, because if your behavior does not change, faith without works is dead. You can hang it up. It's a wrap. So African people have to start to do something. You don't need a leader to start to do something. I don't mean just something, because the activities for a fully functional animated African, activities that are trajectory-wise 50, 60, 75, 100, 200 years into the future, right? If you're thinking about those types of things and you're thinking about 6 generations from now, when your great-great-great-grandkids, great-great-great-great-grandkids, because nobody in our family knows who grandma's grandma was, are you going to be forgotten? Because people who are having a white cultural experience, they don't do that. And there's a reason why you don't do that. Because there's a source energy code that is in every person to pass on. But it got to be good code. It can't be that half-ass petty code, you still walking with animosity and jealousy and all kind of disgusting frequency things in your energy. This unhappy and nastiness, you can't pass that code on. That's not a code that can be duplicated. So when we thinking about 200 years into the future, we got to also consider what type of technology may be created. We need our geniuses in our community to discuss that. What type of technology may be in our space? Because what these folks do is they just create a reason and they just create funding and they just dream something up and they say, here's some money, go create it. And that's what they do. And then they patent it. And then they say, well, let's do it. Let's try it out. And whatever it creates, whatever ramifications or problems it creates, whatever it does to the environment, the water, or the food supply, whatever, we'll just make synthetic food. In fact, we'll make people, we'll just put food into a capsule, and that will give you all the nourishment you need. But as of right now, everybody can be fat as a cow, because right now we're just getting fat off the hog with our dividends that we get paid every quarter from all of this garbage and chemical that we feed in people that bodies are responding negatively to. But we're going to keep giving it to them because who the hell cares about them? In 100 years, nobody will remember them. My thing is, I just wish they put people into the ground so that their bodies could actually feed the soil instead of putting them in boxes and taking up a whole lot of land space for no reason. For what? Why you need a hole in the ground? Well, for what? Put them in the soil, dust to dust. That's how you came. Go back to the dust. Feed the ground. Give the ground nutrients. The same as when we came in. Something to think about. It's something to think about because we're sentimental about things that don't really matter. So that's for us to consider. 200 years from now, Africa, where we going to be?
All right.
Are we going to be still out here talking about equity? Are we going to be still out here talking about stop killing us?
Right.
Because, Lord, why you got to ask somebody to stop killing you? If somebody killing you, you better go crack their head because they ain't got no business killing you. Malcolm X said somebody can take your, what did he say? He said somebody, was it Malcolm X or was it Khalid Muhammad? I think it was Khalid Muhammad. He said, you might want to take my life, but if you can take it, that's my problem. If you don't like me, that's your problem. But if you know what I'm talking about.
If you don't like me, but that's your problem, I'm paraphrasing. But if you do something about it,
take my life. If you want to take my life, that's your problem. But if I let you take my life, that's my problem.
Right? Yeah.
I forgot which one. It might have been Khalid Muhammad or was Malcolm X.
That sounds very Khalid Muhammad.
That sounds like Khalid Muhammad.
That's not very Khalid Muhammad.
Sure. But family, we got to work this out, and it's something to be thinking about. And it's difficult because having a conversation with other people in the space because of limited consciousness. The brains of our people are not expanding big enough. Mm-hmm. This is not the end all and be all. There are many ways to create government and to create and insulate and protect. Remember, you can't have anything that you can't protect. If you can't protect it, you just shuffling papers. And it disgusts me when I see people out here leading the family to the slaughter and shuffling papers. Stop that foolishness. I can't feed you like I was saying. So I can't tell you how to make your money, right? But I can say to you that you can change your behavior so that you won't have to work to live because you shouldn't have to.
Right.
The nature gave, and this is like supposed to be social. Who gave you the inclination as to what a social society is? Who told you what a civil society was? Because African people had civilized societies long before they ever met a European.
Okay.
Long before. So we were already creating government. We were already creating unity. We were already feeding the multitudes of people. Hence, we're still here. So it was happening long before we ever met Europeans. Maybe you need to introduce your consciousness so you can have access to more solutions. Introduce your consciousness to other civilizations so that you know what African people have been creating so that it will build up your efficacy to want to create for yourself in the future. Because I can tell you, these folks ain't creating anything good for African people. As far as they're concerned, they could trim about, they want to trim 15% off the top. That includes white folks. That was global. 15% off the top globally.
Well, catch it.
Whoever catch it.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just figure it out like they always do. They always try to figure something out later on in the aftermath, and try to recover from it from there. So we got things to think about, family. We got things to talk to our children about. And, it's not about heavying. It's about the fact that, unfortunately, we don't have a mechanism that teaches how to teach our youth. We don't have a mechanism that teaches how to teach ourselves. So these are some of the things that we're working out over here. And I can tell you that these are the things that is necessary in our community. We need tools that teach us how to teach to becoming a fully functional and animated African. Teach to that goal. Don't teach to people succumbing to the system and subordinating themselves into the matrix, because that's not it. And the performative foolishness, stop it. Just create the trajectory.
Yeah.
Teach to becoming fully functional and animated Africans, and you can work out the steps in between.
Right.
So if you teach to the highest possibility, you're working your way to that trajectory. You're not, because I know that I've met African people who've hindered my growth because they have short-sighted consciousness. So we have short-sighted consciousness, so we're hindering each other's growth, and we're hindering our youth's growth because you don't have the aptitude to think bigger than the box of the matrix. That's unfortunate. So we need to start teaching the necessity to become fully functional animated Africans as your birthright. No human. You're supposed to be civilized and get along with other humans in a space. That's socializing. Civil, you're supposed to do that. You're not supposed to be out here being malicious and doing the types of dysfunctional, deviant behavioral things that's in this society that people who are having a white cultural experience pushes out there into the social space so that some of them can do some of the disgusting things that they do. We're not talking about that. You're supposed to get along with other human beings. You're supposed to be civil. You're supposed to say, excuse me, thank you, and share. You're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Because we're cohabitating. These are not things that should have to be rewritten. So you got these bumping heads and these various sides, everybody trying to grapple for there's no grappling for market share at this point. We're all here. So we all have to get along. And there's plenty for everybody to have plenty. Nobody's taking from somebody else. There's just a lot of people that have more than their share and they don't want to give up. That's a big issue.
Right.
They have more than what they've earned. They have more than they have meritocratically accumulated.
And feed into the narrative that there's not enough.
So those are the people that are worried. Those are the people who are worried are the ones who have more than they have worked for. They didn't earn it. It was given to them by merit based on their whiteness. And whiteness is a credential in spaces where white-centered consciousness runs the show. It's a credential. It gives you passport into certain spaces and places, and it gives you unmerited privilege that none of them want to talk about because you want to pretend that this American experience is just. It's not for everybody. It's not for me.
Definitely not.
Them folks need to be talking to me about it. Anyway, what we're gonna talk? We're gonna put that on. What's the name one?
Yeah, we will. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we're here together. So since we're here together, let's work it out.
Absolutely, family.
So let's be civil. Absolutely.
So you know what it is. It's Soundbytes International Radio, y'all. So of course we come at you with these conversations each week, Monday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, on Facebook and YouTube, live and direct. So please make sure you stay in tune with us. So before we wrap, yeah, absolutely. Shouts out to the folks in the comments, Melly, Sister Melly Queen. Thank you for chatting and sharing your thoughts. Sister Carol, peace and blessings. Thank you for tuning in, and all those tuning in. You catch the playback. Please make sure you leave your comments and your thoughts. We do appreciate it. But we wanted to give some good energy to close out. So we wanted to just go back to this particular piece. So we just want to take a moment with y'all, vibe with us for a bit. And let's get in tune, family. Let's travel together into this space and time. Let's speak to our souls, so you know how it goes. So let's stick with the energy, family.
Give thanks.
Yeah.
The breath of life. We are galactic beings traveling together in time. We are galactic beings traveling together in time. Giving up those nonsensical words that define and reduce our measure. We are divine treasure. Soul, I see you. Sawubona, I see into you. Sawubona, I see you. Sawubona, I see into you. Sawubona, I see you. Mark the miles and time gone by. The ripple in space.
Okay, gonna play a little bit more. Yeah, we wanted to get into the new bedtime beat. Yeah, that's the bedtime energy, Carol, Sister Carol. Absolutely, I share.
I thought we was gonna play the whole video.
It wasn't the whole video then.
Okay.
Well, we give you a little tidbit of that. So, but we wanted to get into the energy family of just like sharing in the space and energy of traveling together with us.
No, we're gonna do you, Carol. We still
gonna got you. So
we still got you out here in these streets.
So we wanted to get into that. The Soundbytes family. So get into your I am as well. Peace and power family. Bob with us. Check it out. Yeah.
What happened?
It was just a clip. I thought it was the whole thing, but it wasn't. Still got my Henny.
You got my Henny. What's my Henny? What's that Henny?
Henny.
Can you see? Oh,
it's not charged up, probably.
Good for you.
I'm only gonna upload it because before I had the time limit on it. Now it's 10 minutes. You can put a video.
That's all day long.
What the hell? It doesn't matter.
Uh-oh.
Well. Okay.
Wow. What was he doing?
We're going through meth and heavy addiction.
Really? What the hell was he doing out there in them streets?
He's doing meth.
Love me more than loveless.
You be the best. And yeah, turn up. About once I want to, even now will anymore. Yes, indeed. Magnification of God all day, every day, family. You know how we do.
Family.
Soundbytes International Radio. One love, family. Y'all have a blessed evening. We'll see you soon. Peace and power to you.
Peace, power, and protection.
Absolutely, fam. One love.